We're gearing up for the brand new Formula One season on the BBC, and we're having a little chat about who the contenders might be for the 2010 world title. 2 years with really dramatic fights for the world championship. How's it going to go this year, David? Is it going to be another vintage year, do you think?
I think potentially it's the best season that we're going into for more than a decade. You know, if I think back to the time when we had so many winning drivers in top teams, then I think you have to go back to the sort of late 80s when you're sort of Prost, Mansell, Piquet, Senna's, and you know, it's a period that Martin knows very well.
You'll take that, won't you?
Hello, Nigel.
And God, you've lost weight.
Where's your moustache?
Your eyebrows.
Where's your moustache?
It's not. His eyebrows are much smaller in real life, aren't they? Anyway, I think potentially it is a classic season that we're going into. You know, someone at the end of the day in one of those top 4 teams is going to finish 8th in the championship, which, for a winning driver, is a disaster season.
We say that, though. They could finish lower than that. There could be a surprise. You don't know. This time last year, if we'd have sat here, probably before the Brawn went out for its first run, we would never have given them a hope in whatever's chance of doing the business. Who do you think could surprise us this year, Martin?
Jenson Button says there are 7 teams that have got fast cars, and I think he's absolutely right, maybe even more, because Sauber have been quick in pre-season testing, Force India, Toro Rosso, the Williams looked handy with the new Cosworth engine. But we know that over a season they haven't got the resource and the infrastructure to keep developing that car as Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes-Benz and Red Bull will, evolving the car through the season. So we know that those 4 teams are going to produce the world champion driver and the world champion team. Sauber, I think, will surprise. They look like they've got a great car, and they got a lot of history of running a reliable, solid motor car. Force India, the 2 drivers there are very excited about their new car. They're really positive. Sutil's got to stop crashing into things. He's got potential, and you know, I think they could score some serious points on occasions. But as the season evolves and as they all get used to the new strategies and running full tanks of fuel for the first time since 1993, I think it will normalise, as David has said.
And it is about the development race once again this year, isn't it, Eddie? And particularly for some of those teams, having the resources to be able to keep tabs on the big teams.
Resources. Yeah.
It's the key aspect. If you can balance your income and your funding correctly, and you're able to put in place upgrades and updates, you will have a good car. There are 7 teams, and I'm glad to see that Peter Sauber is a magic guy, and he's back, and he will make a very good car. Force India are a big surprise. Mark Smith has built a fabulous car there. But the top 4, just like football, will be the top 4. You can't get away from that. That's a fact.
Let's focus on the top 4 then. Let's just go through and discuss them. Adrian Newey designed a fantastic car last year. Most people have copied it for this year, and he's sort of stepped up once again and brought out the new Red Bull. How do you see it going there, Jonathan? What are going to be the big reasons for Red Bull to possibly win the title this year?
Well, they finished last year with a real storm, didn't they? Won the last 3 races and had the fastest car on the grid. Question is, can they build on that momentum when you've got Ferrari having scrapped everything in the middle of last year, almost done a Brawn? Right, forget 2009, we're aiming for 2010, so that's going to be interesting. In terms of the driver partnership, they're the only one of the top 4 teams, as we expect them to be, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull and Mercedes, to have kept the same 2 drivers, so there's continuity there. Powerful lineup as well, they know what's what. Picking up on what we were talking about with Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton, people sort of getting to know each other, getting into the team, getting to know there. I think the one concern there, well, 2 concerns. Maybe there's reliability. With better reliability last year, Red Bull could have pushed Brawn a lot closer. And also just, as I understand at the moment, quick over a short run, but it's the long runs. What about the tyre wear? How well is the car going to do there? You think back to, say, Sebastian Vettel in Monaco. So that would be a concern, but certainly quick and certainly in the thick of it.
I suppose Adrian Newey would point us back to 91, 92. In 91, it was a fast car that he designed that was a little fragile. In 92, they went out and won the title. You've got some quite useful ins at Red Bull for us, David. I'm sure you'll mention that name more than once over the course of the season.
Never.
How are they feeling inside the team? Are they confident? Do they think this could be the year? They've said they need to win the title.
Yeah, they're as well prepared for this season as any other. It's still a relatively young team in terms of the investment and development that's gone on. But the thing that let them down last year in terms of reliability was the engine, not the car. And what let them down at the beginning of the season was the interpretation of the double diffuser, which only a few teams actually started the year with.
OK, let's talk about Mercedes Grand Prix. A concern for them that over the course of last year, as it was then, the Brawn GP car didn't develop at the rate that it should have done, or is that a case of holding back your resources and putting them on this year's car, do you think, Martin?
They had a head start, didn't they, with this, I can't wait till we lose the word double diffuser out of our lives, like credit crunch
1 year,
and
1
other
year.
silly millennium bug or something.
You should be on Grumpy Old Men rather than Formula One break.
No, did you say grumpy old man? Sorry, I'm talking about myself here, Martin.
You hadn't finished what you were saying, I don't think.
He's thrown him again.
Right, where are we? I think it's going to be tough for Mercedes. A lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
They've cut loose from McLaren. There's a rivalry, if you ever needed one. 3 German drivers at Mercedes-Benz, and they're out on their own now, and 3 Brits with their test drivers at McLaren, and I'm really looking forward to that head-to-head. Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher, will the old magic be there again? I think it will. And I certainly wouldn't underestimate those two getting their act together.
Torvill and Dean or something when they come back.
But you do sense that they're not quite there with their car in winter testing, although they're just as likely to pull something out of the hat for the first race.
Never underestimate Ross Brawn, I suppose.
Or Nico Rosberg. I'm a big fan of Nico Rosberg's as well. So I think Mercedes will be there or thereabouts.
OK, well, McLaren retain their history. What they don't retain is ties as close to Mercedes as they had before, but they've come out with 2 world champions and a very aggressive-looking car for this year. How do you see the MP425 performing for them?
One thing, just at a basic level, they've done very well in terms of Mercedes coming back, talking about the silver arrows, which looks more like a silver car to me than McLaren. Very clever. So they've got that in terms of the look. And as Martin was saying, there's a great rivalry there, isn't there, between McLaren and Mercedes now. And there's a slightly fractious relationship by the end. There's a real battle there. Are we going to bill it as the Anglo-German war? Here we go.
Sure.
Mercedes with all the 3 Germans. It was meant to be an international team, I thought, at one stage.
Not anymore.
That's what I was saying. It's got to be an international team, and then we've got 3 Germans. In terms of McLaren, I mean, it looks a smart car, and the way they improved and developed last year, having started 2.5 seconds off the pace, and then by the end winning races on the pole, they're looking sharp. And certainly in testing the last day, they were up there with Ferrari.
And finally, talking about Ferrari, they've got the drivers they want. They didn't have the season they wanted last year. There's big pressure on the Italians to deliver, David.
Yeah, but they're well used to that. The whole nation gets behind Ferrari, and when they have painful seasons, then the whole country's down. But I think they've shown good pace in testing. And Alonso, they have a real star driver that can pull that team together in a way that, even with his great driving talent, Kimi Räikkönen wasn't capable of delivering.
How do you feel about Ferrari's chances this year, Martin?
I think Alonso starts the season as the favourite, closely followed by Hamilton in the McLaren. Certainly in my book. We're guessing, really, aren't we? Let's be honest. I hate all these clever predictions, but that's where
If you get it right, though, always sound clear.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's where my money would go on. I think Alonso is massively motivated to put the misery of his McLaren season in 07 behind him, 2 very lacklustre years at Renault, all the Crashgate scandal that he didn't really quite get touched by, but he wants to come up and deliver, and I think he'll be such a force of energy for the Ferrari team, who appear to have a pretty good car as well. And, it's a question whether Massa can improve his game yet again and hang on to Alonso's shirt tails.
it's not easy, is it, for Massa? Kimi Räikkönen comes into the team, he manages to beat him, he then has the nasty accident in Hungary, and then it's like, thanks for that. There's another world champion for you to try and beat. It's always stepping up to the plate for Felipe, isn't it, Eddie?
It is, but Felipe has done really well, and he's surprised a huge number of people, me included. Nevertheless, I have a concern about Ferrari, which I actually believe they'll win the Constructors' Championship, or that's what I would think they will do. And that despite Todd not being there, Ross Brawn not being there, and probably the most important, Rory Byrne not being there, for me was the real brainchild in that team. So they're still going through a growing period in time, and there's no real evidence for me to see that they have still the same management and technical structure that they had before. That would be my only question mark for Massa and for Alonso. Alonso is going to be hugely quick. I don't see him win the championship.
At least they can't screw the refuelling up, can they, at Ferrari anymore?
We'd be delighted about that.
The Massa all the time.
Yeah, they're still
He
the old
used to
traffic
carry
lights
the
and
extra
pistons.
weight of the nozzle hanging out the end of it all the time.
Watch what they do with a wheel gun next, I suppose. I want a one-word answer, very quickly. The Constructors' World Champion, Jonathan.
I've gone for McLaren.
Ferrari.
McLaren.
Red Bull.
Didn't we know that was going to happen? Didn't we know that was going to happen?
What the hell's that? I
don't laugh when you give your
Yes,
answer.
Don't worry, the check is in the post.
Yeah, that's another 20 quid in your back pocket. Let's talk about the drivers as well. David, Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, done. Martin, who do you reckon could win the Drivers' World Championship?
Fernando Alonso.
OK.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
OK, and you don't get an answer after your last one. Oh, go on. Come on.
Sebastian Vettel.
Oh, surprise! Look at that. Right, there you go. Those are the thoughts of our experts ahead of the Formula One season. 13th and 14th of March will be live from Bahrain for all the build-up and live coverage of both qualifying and the race. It's going to be some season, and we'll all see you then.